What's going on YouTube? Aaron here, and today's video is going to be the second phone call that I had with the former alleged friend of Tony Kline. This video was supposed to be part of a live stream that was going to happen tonight on this channel. I was going to go through it live with you guys and pause it and kind of talk about my overall thoughts. But something came up with the documentary that I'm producing, and so I had to last minute book a flight halfway across the country, and so that's where I'm at right now, and that's why we're not doing this live together, so my apologies on that. But I figured I'd still go ahead and premiere this video and release this phone call as a standalone 38-minute call, and then you guys can talk amongst yourselves in the comments as this is premiering, as well as when the video is uploaded. And then of course, at some point when I get back from shooting the documentary, we can go through it together on a live stream, as well as go through my initial thoughts on the first call that I had. So both of these calls were back from, I think, April. The exact date for this second call will be listed down in the description. But if you have missed the first call, it is broken into 4 episodes. It was a very long phone call. I will link those down below. This call is much shorter. You will see that it ends somewhat abruptly. So let me know what you guys think. I will be down in the comments on my flight home when I'm in the airport, and so I'll respond to some comments as I have time. But with that said, let's get to the video.
Call from
Scott, Washington.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hey Scott, how's it going?
Hey, man. Sorry about all this phone tag.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. So, okay. So I went through our call, and I had a couple of additional questions. I feel like obviously you had a lot to say, and there was just a couple things that I think I didn't get to really either add to with what you were saying or even ask you initially.
Okay.
So I guess my biggest question, or I guess my biggest takeaway from all of it would be your reason for wanting to contacting me in general, and I guess if you've contacted anyone else in terms of people that are on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah. No, you're the only person that I've contacted. The only reason I have is because I see basically all these Facebook, Twitter, internet lawyers who probably barely have a 7th or 8th grade education to begin with have taken conjecture and news, quote unquote, facts, pieced them together, and have already became the judge, jury, and executioner,
right?
Convicting both Klines. And I had a discussion yesterday with someone close to the case, and I can't confirm nor deny it was law enforcement or anybody else, but I made the conclusion, if you will, of the things that we do know.
Okay.
Even 5 years after the case, after the fact, I said, okay, look, we know we have DNA from both victims. There was fur or animal hair also tracked at the scene, which has been collected. The DNA from Kagan, the DNA from Tony, and the DNA from any and all of their animals, domesticated animals, have also been cross-matched. There is absolutely zero match across the board. They don't have a case. They don't have a case that they can prosecute. They're not going to take what they have right now to any prosecutor against them. And I was told them That's not gold, and it's not gold. It's not 100%. It's not ironclad.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. It doesn't. That they don't have anything. They don't have anything that will give them a conviction on double murder that involves them. The only thing that they do have is circumstantial. When it comes to physical evidence, there is none.
Circumstantial being Kagan's contact with the accounts, or
yes, the last phone messages that were sent from apparently one of Kagan's phones that was last in touch with one of the girls.
Right.
That isn't going to convict anybody.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
So I guess my biggest takeaway from the call, I mean, because obviously you said that you wanted to clear some things up. So I didn't know exactly if you had even gotten to that point in sharing exactly what you were there to clear up, because I didn't know what the real motive was for contacting me and chatting with me about it.
I guess I'd have to go back and look at all the context that I was reading on your post on the broadcast at the time.
Right.
Just because of all the comments. And I have watched, there's probably at least a dozen YouTube videos up right now from everybody else, even people that are from what appear to be England or New Zealand or somewhere that are trying to solve this case from 5,000 miles away with just what they can find on the internet and try to piece and part together. It's not there. I see the comparisons of pictures they have taken from his Facebook page, comparing it to the video that one of the girls took, trying to, super enhance the crooked smile that he has compared to the pencil drawings. There's and it's just basically the conviction that they've already have in their mind, and I use the term they as in the audience.
Right.
That kind of stuff taints a jury pool.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's why I was reluctant also just to even post our conversation, because I just wasn't sure even what all was what mattered to be out there and what didn't, and then it got me thinking or relevant, and then it got me even thinking more, in basically you even saying that Tony would likely be able to point out who's talking to me if he were to happen to come across the conversation. And it got me even thinking more, well, I not necessarily questioning your actual relationship with him, but to some degree, yes, because it's like, well, why would you, you didn't say great things about Tony altogether, ultimately. I think there were a couple times that you said he was too fat and too lazy to carry out a crime like this, or whatever the words were. And I'm just thinking so wait, so you talk to this guy every day? It's not adding up entirely for me. What your motive would be to just kind of almost clear his name to an extent, but then also say, you're aware of his, the things against him that were presented to you supposedly by law enforcement, basically painting him as kind of a monster, and not necessarily in terms of this particular crime, but in terms of his abuse in his previous relationship. And so I'm just like, I'm confused as to why you'd want to associate in any way, shape, or form after the fact, even if it was just riding to go get lunch with him on a motorcycle.
Right.
So, and even like you mentioned speaking to him yesterday, or you mentioned in your first message to me that you speak to him sometimes twice a day on the phone, I
Sometimes.
got to thinking about that more, and I'm thinking I have some best friends or really good friends that I maybe talk to every couple of weeks, and even if I catch up, it's a quick text saying, hey,
Right.
sorry, it's been a while. How are things going for you?
We're also talking about somebody that has one person in his life, which is his mother, and he has. And I guess I don't know if I can confirm nor because I haven't seen them. 2 or 3 girls that he visits.
2 or 3 girls.
Yeah.
Daughters, or
what
do you mean?
No, I mean we're talking about girlfriends that he associates with.
Okay.
And I know he talks about another person that he talks to, male friend, who lives in Florida, and myself.
Yeah.
And other than that, the guy's pretty much homebound. He can't go anywhere. Limited mobility. His range of mobility is limited. He doesn't have that big of social circle, and I haven't seen it any bigger than that, although he is well known and quite popular with everyone.
And that's another thing that's odd to me, because it's like he was spoken of as this guy that was a peeping Tom in high school, and like I would assume he was popular in a way of like, oh, that guy's a creep. Like that's how I would assume he'd be popular and known for.
No, everybody loves him.
Oh.
No, there's not anyone. He doesn't have that stigma of being a monster in Peru, Indiana.
Yeah,
doesn't. Guy's very popular, well liked, and I would say 90% of the Facebook public that he is friends with, if they got pulled out of that jury pool, they're going to go not guilty because they don't see it. They know him. They either work with him, have social interaction with him. They don't see or don't know that type or that or what has happened to him legally.
Yeah. Well, that's another.
20 years
it's like,
ago.
do they know? Did they? I mean, this is just the public that knows him to the same amount that you might have thought you knew him when he had this other life that you were kind of unaware of. You know what I mean? So I think it's confusing, and like I said, it's not necessarily that's not related to this specific thing that we're talking about with the Delphi murders, but. That's where it's like, I think maybe people think they know him, or, he has this perception that the public may think they know. So yeah, I guess I'm just confused by the whole thing. Ultimately is just, some of the, just.
I guess what I see on the videos and the comments, and I'll go back to this again, that the quote unquote evidence that is being portrayed on, and I'll just use the general term, all these videos, including yours, there's comments that I see, he's a monster, why isn't he in jail, why isn't he in handcuffs, why isn't he, all that stuff's been done. He has been cleared physically.
Right. I mean, he was a monster for a different crime. It was he did. Yeah, it'd be like he could have run over somebody at the intersection of through town, and 2 weeks before that he could have disregarded a stop sign. The two aren't connected. Right. Yeah. No, I definitely get that, and that's just kind of where I'm at with the relationship thing with you. It's just, I think like you said, he doesn't have a whole lot of people to be speaking with. I mean, his only son that would even speak to him right now, because it's clearly his stepchildren probably don't have anything to do with him at this point, is in jail, right? So he is in jail. And so, yeah, like you said, there's very few people that he could turn to or talk to. So, yeah, I guess he has to bring up, I would assume, more personal things on these calls, especially if they're happening even once a week. I would assume if you're calling someone, you know, you're definitely going to be talking about personal things. So
he's really more interested in what I'm doing.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I don't know. Probably because he lives with himself and he knows what he does.
Okay.
I don't. Hold on a minute. That's what that is. Anyway, I honestly don't know. He does the same thing every day. I'm pretty busy.
So wait, so you say he does the same thing every day. So what exactly is that? Does he tell you what he does every day, or you're just assuming that since he's a homebody?
I pretty much know what he does every day because, I mean, is this part recorded?
I mean, I'm recording right now, but I can exclude.
Okay, yeah, I know what he does every day. He is a creature of habit. He, goes and visits his mother, usually in the morning, followed by going up to the cemetery to see his dad's grave, because there's apparently unfinished business there or whatever. I keep telling him that's, not healthy. And then he'll venture over to my town and do the things that he normally does, which usually takes 30 minutes. When there's a doctor, usually a visit in there.
Yeah.
Because he has, an amputated foot and has to have treatment once or twice a week. And then when he's done, he's usually calling me or sitting out in front of my house asking me if I'm home, or if I am home, we'll sit around and talk, or I'm already out somewhere, and we usually meet somewhere in public. And then middle of the afternoon, he's usually on his way home. And in between there's usually a woman or two that he visits over here for a quote-unquote conjugal visit, if you will.
Like in person?
In person. It's tough to have sex over the phone.
Right. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and stop you there and just say that it sounds like he's way more able-bodied than what you were talking about 10 minutes ago of being stuck at home. Like you just mentioned him going to maybe 5 or 6 places in a day.
Well,
so I think it's that this is where I'm just kind of confused of just like
there's no denying that he has an amputated foot or half a foot,
right, if
you will. And it's also been a year ago, but he is getting around.
He's able able enough to.
He's not running 4 miles a day. He's driving,
right,
and maybe walking 50 feet to this place, or walking 12 or 15 feet to this place.
Yeah.
But he's not getting out of the car and going inside a restaurant.
Right.
Or the only place he's going inside is the doctor's office.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't even, he may go inside his mother's house, but he doesn't get out of his vehicle when he goes to the cemetery or anything like that.
Gotcha. Because, aside from obviously you saying there's no real evidence to have him tied to this other than unfortunately being tied to Kagan, who is, without a doubt, at least tied to this case to some degree with the communication. It sounds like in the first call, your main reason for believing that Tony couldn't have been involved in this case was because of the physical impairments. You'd mentioned him having a hunting license and hunting from his car and just being, not being super able. And, I don't think that necessarily the person who committed this crime would have had to have been able to run 4 miles a day, so.
The impairments of him happened after the murders.
Right. So, that would even mean more so that he would be more available.
We're also talking about a 285-pound man who
has... Have you seen the photo of him next to it looks like a Lamborghini or a Porsche or something, the yellow one?
Yep.
I mean, he doesn't
Yeah.
look insanely overweight there. I mean, obviously, it doesn't take it's
He wears a 3 or 4X shirt. Everything on him is baggy. You really wouldn't look at him and think that he is as obese as he is, but he's a big boy.
Right. He definitely looks like a bigger guy for sure. But I'm not seeing like a bowling ball. Like if we saw somebody that looked like an exercise ball in the torso, that it would be like, oh well, that absolutely could not be this guy. But when you pair that photo of him next to the yellow car to the photo on the bridge, and once again, I'm just kind of, I just look at all of this and I'm like, I'm interested just to kind of look at everything. The shape is not far off. I mean, it's not, so it's like.
The police told me the guy in the down the hill video goes anywhere from 165 to 200 pounds.
Okay.
Max. 5'9", 5'8". Tony 6'1", 260.
Okay. Yeah, I think there was a few people that went out there to do the overlaid images where they were standing on the bridge to see how tall. And I think, I can't quite. I don't know the exact height that they were thinking, but
those are unfair comparisons by any imagination, because there's just perspective and range. Photos can just do everything. Again, I'm not standing up for the guy. I'm not trying to say no.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's got to be some sort of level of doubt.
Oh, I mean, for sure. I think everyone, you see these YouTube videos and there's definitely people that seem dead set on something. Oh my gosh, this looks terrible. And it does look terrible when you add everything up with Kagan, but I think it can come across as, guilty in the public's eye because of this one thing or whatever. And I think that at the end of the day, there's a lot of doubt still in a lot of people's minds, because it's like we're just looking at what we have in front of us, and really there's way more to all of this.
There probably is, but I've been around public safety long enough to know that if there was teeth to this, they would have done it, especially with them too.
If there was what? Sorry?
There's no teeth to this. There's no physical evidence that ties either one of those guys to this double homicide.
Yeah. I think the thing with Kagan is that a lot of people think that there's no doubt that he's not involved in some way, whether or not he wasn't. I mean, he could have just he could have just shared information, right?
Even if his phone was the last phone to be in communication with one of the two girls, they're not saying where they have all of the pings from the cell phone towers,
right? Yeah,
of where all those were coming from.
I think that go ahead.
If any of those were within 10 miles of Delphi, Indiana, they would have them in custody. Mm-hmm. Either or of them. It's not there. Now, that's what was told to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that they're holding Kagan in on is CP.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure that they're absolutely looking into any possibility that there could have been, because I think ultimately you cannot deny the fact that it is wildly suspicious that he was one of the last or the last person to speak. Could have been pure coincidence, but I think they are in a position of power knowing that he is in for this specific crime, to where he's not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. They can continue to look into if there was any communication with him, for example, with someone else that could have been involved. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's just like I said in the last conversation, it's really unfortunate that they got tied into it in this way, and I think it would be also naive to not assume that people would be like, wow, this looks really bad, and then when you dig up the actual the past of Tony Kline. Obviously, that is
does,
the past, but it looks
but I will
really
tell
bad.
you this: his social circle, and I'm talking about his Facebook friends, his work friends, his social friends that he's known for 30 and 40 years, has not diminished. He's not sheltering in place, hiding like a coward. He is walking up and down, quote unquote, walking up and down. He is.
I thought you said he
things.
was kind of sheltered and he only has his mother and you to talk to.
Well, I mean, he does. He's not. What I'm saying is that he's not spending 23 hours a day inside his house wondering if people think he's a double murderer or not. Those are words that he has said recently to me. That's the farthest thing on his mind. He's like, I don't give a fuck. He's like, I have been cleared. I have been cleared twice.
Right. Well, that's good. I guess I'm just.
It's the circumstantial evidence that has Kagan in jail. It has the suspicion of Tony with a eyebrow raised, if you will, because of the things that Kagan has said in his jailhouse interview, throwing his dad under the bus.
Yeah.
They have every text message that they have from all the devices, all the pings from every tower.
Yeah.
They have everything.
Gotcha.
And just basically what I'm boiling this down to is when people who are putting these videos up and trying to be, unsolved mysteries, and I'll use the term you guys, the producers of these videos, they're throwing what they have up on the screen, and then it's the comments who are trying to, it's him. Why isn't he in custody? Let's, burn him at the stake. Come on, let's get this done and over with. It's been 5 years, immediate crucifixion, and It's wrong.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like anytime the news is on, right? And people are going to have their opinions on what's being said. And that's just where it goes to show, like, everyone is going to take it and interpret it a certain way or feel about, this a certain way. I think it's very irresponsible for the people to post things that, or post things without saying ahead of time, this is my opinion, or this is allegedly, those kinds of words. And so I know you're looping me in with a lot of these people out there, but I definitely try to have that language moving throughout my streams and my conversations that I have with people, but I can't control what people think of something, right? And so those conversations that do unfold in the chat and beyond are inevitable, right? Because it's just people are taking it in and they run with it. And so I guess, and I don't want to say I'm having a hard time believing your relationship with Tony, because I do, but I'm having a hard time understanding the actual timeline of the relationship and where you were just kind of unaware of certain things. And then, like I said, even after having to go talk to law enforcement and hearing about his past, even if it has nothing to do with this current thing we're talking about now, like why you would want to associate yourself in any way, shape, or form. I'm just having a hard time, like, I guess kind of even believing that you speak to him as much as you say you do, or...
Very much so. In fact, I just got off the phone with him before I called you. He called me.
Okay, so is he aware that you're speaking with people online about this? Or
he has no idea. I told him only one time that I spoke to someone in the most general of terms about things that were being said or posted online. I never mentioned anything about videos or anything of the sort. As far as he knows, it's somebody that I'm talking to physically. not virtually.
Gotcha. Okay, so like for instance, the
I have
call
to keep
right
it in the. I have to
before
keep
this.
it in. I have to keep it in the most generalities, because if he does hear this conversation, then I put myself and also as a police witness in jeopardy.
So how so with that exactly?
I can't tell you any more than that.
Gotcha. So
There are just things that I can say without tipping my hands of my identity. And if this conversation gets out and Tony hears it, then he can listen to it. He might pick up on a nuance or pick up on a background noise or anything of the effect, things that I might say that I have a bad habit of saying and repeating, and putting myself in jeopardy. I don't want to dissuade his trust in me. Also, I need to keep him close in case he does happen to be a little bit more forthright if something else comes out that I can take to the state police.
So you're like not 100%. You're saying that there could be a possibility, and that you would absolutely run with that information in the right direction.
I've already told them that that is the case. That I would do that if that happened.
Yeah, because I guess I'm just confused as to why you would even talk to me in the first place then, if you were potentially concerned about it getting to him or him hearing you in this. Obviously, your voice would be altered if I do end up posting this, but it's just like, you know what I mean? It's I'm just confused,
yours was the only one I reached out to because you were more accessible. You had Twitter accessibility.
Gotcha.
And I wasn't going to reach out to anybody else, like the murder sheets or anything like that. I don't want to get tangled up into that web. I know there's one person, and it's you.
Gotcha. Okay. Huh. So not the last thing, but one of the bigger things that stood out, and I don't know if it was a slip up or if you said 2 or 3, but you said that he at least had called you twice that night on Monday. Is that correct? At 8 p.m.?
The state police, the first question they asked me was, would you have any idea why on, was it February 13th or 14th or whatever it is, at 8 p.m. in the evening, why Tony would have called you 2 times within 1 minute?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, have no idea. It's not to say that it's uncommon. I could have been doing something. I could have been in bed. I could have been in the shower. I could have been doing a multitude of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no clear-cut answer for that at 5 years past the point.
Right. So in terms of directly after, like say the morning after or the next day, did you see like, oh, I have 2 calls that I missed, or did you follow up? Hey, I saw I missed 2 calls from you within a minute. Everything okay? You know, that kind of thing.
He may have called me a 3rd time at 9 o'clock. I was never notified about that.
Notified as in like you never saw it on the phone, or they told you?
The state. What I'm saying is that the state police never told me that he called me a 3rd time at 8:20, 8:30, 9 o'clock. Never said anything to me about the fact. I could have called him, but I don't know that. I haven't checked my phone records.
Yeah, I think you would have been asked about it also if you had called him, right? They would have been like, "Hey."
I would assume so. They had my phone in custody for 3 days, so trying to get everything that they could, all the communication and anything else that they could get from him to me.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, the two calls thing. I mean, I didn't know if there was significance there. Obviously, they asked you about it, and my big thing was just wondering if he had followed up with you about why. But then again, if you had spoken to him often,
this is somebody. Yeah, this is somebody that it's not uncommon. I think I may have spoken to him at least maybe 2 or 3 times today.
So why would you have talked to him 3 times today?
That's just what he does. I got another buddy of mine that calls me at least 5 or 6 times a day.
That's a lot of time to just...
I'm a popular guy. My phone rings maybe 150 times a day. It's not uncommon for me to go through 3 batteries in, 10 hours.
Gotcha. Okay. Did you go to Jerry Leroy's funeral? Leroy Kline?
No.
Was this a time that you were not as close with Tony, or what?
No, I don't socialize in public in close quarters. COVID scares me to death, and
Gotcha.
there's that's just almost too private. That didn't have anything to do with me, and
yeah, I just didn't know how close you guys were at that point, and if that was a thing that had happened. So.
No, I from what I was told, he had a nice turnout, but that's I wasn't his father's friend. I was his friend, and I just thought that was just a little too familiar, and it was a little bit further. The funeral, from what I understand, was a little bit further of a drive than being in my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
It was out of town.
Yeah. Gotcha. Do you think you were one of the only people maybe that was friends with him or knew of him that was also surprised by the fact that he had this wife and children? Or do you think he was keeping it from you specifically? Like, do you think there were a lot of people that found out through all of this? Oh, wow, I had no idea.
No, that's speculation. That's speculation at best. I have no idea.
Gotcha. So no one else that you are aware of that's friends with him came out during all of this and said, "Gosh, I didn't know about that either." Like
I really don't talk to anybody else inside his inner circle.
Like no one you ride with or anything like that was confused by the info?
No, no ex-work associates. We're
Gotcha.
Just two different people in 2 different social circles. Yeah,
and I know you'd mentioned that they didn't quite overlap entirely, but
I don't even speak to his sister, and I'm closer with her than I am with him.
And wait, with
about
whose sister?
Any of this? I'm Tony's sister. I'm closer with her than I am with him.
Currently, or at that point, like during?
At that, I might have seen her. I don't see her near as often as I used to.
Gotcha.
So there's probably a good 10 years where I haven't spent more than 30 minutes with her. So.
But you're currently closer to her than Tony?
We were and are classmates.
So does she call you like multiple times a day?
No. There is no phone calls or anything like that. We see each other at social events.
But I thought you don't go to things. I'm just confused. I'm just a little bit confused.
Well, I mean, I'm not out in doing something every day, multiple times a day.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I might see her at the 5-year reunion, the 10-year reunion.
Right,
or
okay.
if one of our classmates dies, we see each other. If we're going to something, I might run into her at church, something like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
There could be 3 times in a month, and then 5 years could go by and never see her.
Okay. Gotcha.
I have to go. Something's happening.
Okay.
I gotta go. Thank you.
Yeah. That was strange. Gotta go. Something's happening.